Hi Del Mar staff, this is Dr. Becca with a quick video about Premack Principle. We use it a lot and sometimes maybe we aren't totally clear. So Premack Principle, I often call it grandma's rule, right? So first you eat your green beans, then you get ice cream. And so the idea is that when you do something that has a low probability of occurring, or you want somebody to do something that has a lower probability of occurring, which usually means it's a less preferred activity or item, like eating green beans, that you can increase the likelihood of that behavior occurring if you follow it by a high probability behavior, or a behavior that the person likes to do more, which is usually why it happens with greater frequency or has a higher probability of occurring, like eating ice cream. Usually our kids would, there is a greater likelihood of them completing the direction of eating ice cream than completing the direction of eating green beans. So if you follow the green beans with the ice cream, hopefully not together in the same mouthful, but immediately after, then the child is more likely to eat the green beans because they know when they do that, they are going to get the ice cream, which they want. And while that's an example with green beans and ice cream, we can apply that to our sessions, right? So if we are going to work on something that the child doesn't particularly like as much or has a lower probability of occurring, then we want to follow that by something that has a higher probability of occurring or is more reinforcing. And so that's where the first then language comes from. First, we do our spelling words, then we play secret squirrel, right? So the child likes playing secret squirrel, and so they're more likely to do their spelling words because they know that after that comes the secret squirrel game. Sometimes I see people getting tripped up and they'll say they use first then more like a schedule. So first we're going to do spelling words and then we're going to do math. Well, if the child doesn't love math, that is not going to increase the likelihood of them doing the spelling words, and actually might decrease the probability of it happening, because if the child doesn't like spelling words and they don't like math, then there's nothing to look forward to. There's nothing to reinforce or make better, nothing to look forward to, I think is the best way to say it, right? So they might say, well, I don't like this and I don't like what's happening next, so I'm not going to do any of it, which is what we want to avoid, right? So the idea of Premack Principle, or the if-then statements, is that whatever is happening second is something that the child prefers or has a higher probability of occurring than what it is that you're introducing first. After being trained in PCIT, or parent-child interaction therapy, which is a evidence-based program for working with parent-child dyads, I actually have changed it to if then to when then, right? So just like when, if is kind of a question. So if you do this, then you get that. And I often will say, when you do this, then you get that. So when you eat your green beans, then you get your ice cream. Or when you complete your spelling words, then we can play secret squirrel. It makes it more of a statement, so it's happening, and after that, then we can move on to something else. Just like when we tell our kids, are you ready to get started? And they say no, it's like, oh man, well, okay, so I can't phrase that in a question. I have to make it a statement and say it's time to get started. And so I find that using when, then, instead of if, then, has sort of evolved for me, and I know that that definitely came after I was trained in PCIT. So again, just a short couple-minute video on Premack Principle and using if-then statements and when-then statements, and I hope it's helpful. Thanks.